Welcome everybody, Unstoppable Stiletzi is here once again, and we are going to be doing some more Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition cast game content today. This time we got ourselves a nice 2 versus 2 Supremacy. We got Kaitsuki and Apache teaming up as the Dutch and the Portuguese, two very economic civs. They're going to be going up against two Spanish players, Plato and Kelly. Spaniards being, very good at either super duper early aggression or more of that FF style gameplay, so this should be a pretty interesting fight, right? So, before we check out the match itself, we're going to have to check out the map, see geographically how that affects the gameplay. So, on this map in particular, you got this trade route that goes sort of around this curvature of one of the bases. Each of the players can sort of grab their own TP if they want to. Of course, you get this little pond in the center of the map as well, which could be pretty useful to build some ships on in the mid-game if you want to. Otherwise, it just acts as a bit of a barrier that you have to sort of walk around. And one other thing that this map offers is the Comanche natives, of course. These are pretty good. Not only do they give you nice horse archers you can use to kill cav and artillery with, but also they get the Comanche trade language technology over here, which makes all your techs, including your age ups, cheaper in coin, and also cavalry improvements like these two. Comanche horse breed for HP and Comanche mustangs for the speed. So, in general, this is going to be a pretty close fight, I feel like. There's going to be a lot of combat here. So let's get started now and see how this turns out exactly. So on this side, we got the Dutch, who are immediately saying free market, which means Team House of Nassau card. What that basically does is gives everybody a market wagon, and then from that market wagon, your level 1 technologies, your hunting dogs, placer mines, gang saw, those become free. In particular, this really helps your ally, the Portuguese, out, because Portuguese can really use every early game eco advantage technology they can get, because for the Portuguese, their main goal is booming out lots and lots of settlers with all those free covered wagons they get on the age up, right? So if you can give them some of those techs for free in the start, that means that their boom's going to be even more efficient. And in some ways, it gives them a bit more defense as well against whatever the Spanish do, because they can safely get more settlers out while having enough resources to defend with as well, which you always have to consider in Supremacy gameplay in particular. Portuguese actually went for a trading post, which I felt pretty interesting. I don't always think of Portuguese as trading post grabbers, but I guess on this map, since it's such an easy nab, why not do it? And we're also going to want to check out the decks as well. As you know, with Spain, of course, they're going to be already getting their cards going, because the Spanish get their shipments super quickly compared to the other civs, right? They get very early shipments. As for this Spanish, which one is this one? Is this Plato or is this the other one? So this is Plato. So Plato is actually going with an unction play, it looks like, with a FF emphasis. Alright, so what I think is going to happen is 3 settlers, 5 settlers, 700 coin, or they're going to go 3... They might go capitalism, actually. They're going to go settlers, capitalism, and then coin. Maybe settlers if they can get, enough XP for that. That isn't always the case, but sometimes it is. And then from there, they're going to take advantage of lancers or falcons, and then some point come back to unction. Yeah, it's pretty powerful, Unction is a pretty strong bonus that you get. Basically what it does is your missionaries boost the attack of your nearby units when they're around them with this sort of aura that goes around them. It's really brutal to deal with, honestly. And what is the other opponent going to do? So the other opponent is sort of going the same route but without capitalism. Which, I don't know too much about, because for me, I feel like capitalism is such a useful card for Spain, because you're almost guaranteed 90% of the time to get that shipment too very early on, so why not get that coin trickle going sooner? It actually means you can put more of your bills onto the food and wood, because you're going to get that 300 coin to combine with these crates here very easily through capitalism. Instead of lancers, they got hussars, which, bit of an interesting shift, but I can sort of understand it. thief, robber, lame. Wow, what a crybaby. It goes back to you, 7x worse. Well, they fight over treasures or something? Oh, well, somebody's on the ground wounded, so yeah, somebody probably got mugged over there. Yeah, no, it's never fun to get mugged, especially in Age of Empires 3, where it's actually an everyday occurrence, you know. Man just trying to grab his money or his food or his pelts or whatever, and he gets shot. It's a very serious game about crime in general. Absolutely. So, what are they aging up as? Governor? Governor gives you a outpost wagon and some coin. Pretty good for defense. Also helps ramp you up to your FF as well. What are the Dutch doing? Dutch are doing quartermaster. I don't think they'd really do anything else, honestly, you know. A big part of the Dutch build is obviously, again, their banks as soon as possible. And definitely with 400 wood, you can definitely afford at least one bank with that, right? Yeah, in general, what you're seeing right here is something unique to the Dutch-style gameplay. You see a sort of a mixture between hunting and wood chopping. That basically just means they're looking for the perfect balance of food and wood to get their bank out as quick as possible. Because, as you know, with merchants, they do cost coin. So if you want to switch over to that bank economy, which is recommended, you need to get those banks out soon so you don't end up capping your villager queue off and leading to economic consequences as a result of that. So they can start to get their first bank right now. You're probably going to want to put a little bit more onto food and just grab the quartermaster crates right now and get bank number 2. And then from there, typically Dutch go for 700 wood, so they can get some more banks, and then they get the bank wagon, which, you know, is just a free bank, so not as much macro work for that one. Right, and in general, like deck-wise, we're seeing pretty average 2 versus 2 Dutch deck, I would say. You do have your FF options here in a covered wagon, which I find pretty interesting. Your standard rider and skirms. 1 infinite falc, that's kind of interesting. Also 2 infinite falcs in age 4, so if they go for FI, they can definitely ramp with this. 3 buck riders. Enables highwaymen in taverns and stables for a reduced population resource. I've never quite used this before. Is this good? These outlaws, I've used the Wargelder Swiss pikeman before, but I've never used that before. Might be interesting though, you know. I haven't really used too many of the new D outlaws before. I can't quite say on their value, besides maybe the African ones like the archer and the one with the shield and the spear, right? Those are pretty good, but maybe going the highwayman route is actually pretty good. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. So yeah, Spain is clearly going FF. They always seem to do that move. Going with the bishop. Bishops are really powerful agents since it grants you a covered wagon that you can generate right into booming. They're actually both going to do that. This Spain over here, Kelly is actually going to start to get those level 1 market technologies now. Keep in mind though that the opponents already have these technologies since they got it pretty early on through the Team Nassau, House of Nassau cards, so they already had those research for free. Which means Spain's going to have to do a bit of economic catch-up work, I think, if they want to sort of build relatively similar-sized armies, right? And now we see Dutch on the phase of getting their bank wagon. Looks like they actually opted for a coin instead of wood here. Just so they could, well, actually, they're going to be staying in age 2 for the time being. However, Portuguese, though, well, Portuguese still haven't gone to age 3 yet either. I think they wanted to play it a bit more defensively from the looks of it. Yeah, I see barracks, I see stables, so they were sort of preparing to go musketeer hussar as needed, depending on the circumstances. You never quite know with Spain, right? Yeah, you might think that they're going the FF route, but they could suddenly pull the old Rodero crossbowman trick on you and catch you off guard. So you gotta be definitely wary of that always, especially in these rank games, you know. Rank games, they're always playing competitive and trying to trip you up and stuff, so you have to be a little bit smarter than the average bear for that, and not think the obvious for it. Now, this is going to be pretty useful for later on. Kaisuke has put a dock in that pond that we mentioned at the start of the game. So this means Kaisuke can actually put monitors in here, frigates, can put galleons in here to train units. This is a very powerful map control piece here, having a dock in this water, because basically you control all of this water pretty well. And I believe, yeah, you could definitely harass these. I think you can harass these trading posts with the monitor too if you get super late game. And you could probably even like launch with your long bombardment ability some of these buildings as well. So yeah, that's a pretty smart move. Definitely, and for whatever reason, if one of those Spaniards just put a dock down on their side, guess what? You got the TC here to shoot them with the anti-ship attacks. That's like perfect. Who's this? The Dutch. Dutch are starting to construct military on the front lines with the barracks. Portuguese have reached the Fortress Age. Dutch are also trying to reach Fortress Age, which they probably will with very little trouble. They're also going the Bishop. They also want that nice covered wagon to work with. Everybody loves extra town centers, and who wouldn't? You know, with an extra town center, you get more defense. You can produce more villagers. You can get 2 queues of villages. And you can even decide where those villages are going to go, right? You can roll that covered wagon down to center map so you can start grabbing the more forward resources easier by having it be a far less strenuous walking time for your villies. One covered wagon on the front lines here by Portuguese. This is telling me they're probably going to start attacking from this side. And for whatever reason, if Spain detects and starts, you know, trying to push back a little bit, you can, of course, take your vills into the TC and aid in the defense of that forward base, too. Portuguese are building everywhere. They got a town center over here, they got a town center over here, they got a foundry over here. They're building all over the place. But unfortunately, though, Spain has beat them to the punch. Kelly has made his Falconet shipment, whereas Preto is training dragoons to protect them. So I'm thinking maybe riders from the Dutch is probably going to be a necessity here. Yeah, I'm assuming that. You definitely don't want to challenge them with artillery, because Preto has already made some coves to protect it from their culverins if they want to make them. Right there. Yep. Kaisuke called it, you know. That's exactly what you want here. Riders, because riders, you can like swarm them in larger numbers, right? Remember, riders are 1-pop cavalry, whereas the goons are a 2-pop cavalry. So you can make a big swarm of the Dutch dragoon unit very well. And with that swarm, it's really hard for these falconets to take them all out, right? And it even overwhelms the dragoons sometimes. So yeah, that's probably going to be the way they're going to go here. I would say on top of riders, you could do culverins, right? You could do culverins with riders. Have the culverins take out the cannons, just have the riders protect the culverins pretty well. And take on the goons. You might be in good shape doing that. And something else you can do, which Dutch is going to do as well, is they're going to get cavalry combat right now, so that they can sort of make up for some of the less meatier stats of the rider, right? Being a 1-pop cavalry means that their stats are weaker than that of a 2-pop cavalry, so the way you can sort of offset that a teeny weeny bit is by getting cavalry combat to improve the stats by about 15% on the HP and attack. Organ guns unprotected against dragoons. Dragoons are going to go into melee, which is probably the best thing to do because you can take it out a bit quicker, and you also mess up the targeting of the organ gun a little bit because, you know, it can't get as much of an easy splash on them when they're all surrounding it, right? So yeah, if you have like a lone artillery like that and you got some light cav, definitely consider like surrounding them with melee like that, so less of your dragoons ends up taking the damage pretty much. Oh, nice. So it looks like Kelly's falconets are under fire by the culverins. How many culverins are there? So there's one over here. Is there any other culverins on the way? Oh, but they got the monitor though. Yeah, this is the thing I was preluding to, is the monitor. with this little pond here, you can take this big, giant, bulky monitor in the water, and it can fire at targets from pretty long range with its howitzer on the front of its deck like that. It's really powerful. At this point, Kelly is basically forced to keep his cannons in the center of the town centers here, because if he moves them too far to the water over here, the monitor's just going to snipe him. This changes up the game quite a bit, and now it puts Spain on the defensive now. I'm sure before they were planning on doing some sort of aggression, but now that they're going to have to basically defend their home base from the enemy, because they can't really push out anymore due to this big bulky ship that can crush their cannons pretty much and take away their hard-earned resources pretty much. So Caçadores as well from the Portuguese. These are going to be a very strong skirmisher to fight like Cav with. They have a whopping 45% pierce armor, making them into ranged tanks. Did the Dragoons try to go into melee? I noticed that. I noticed the Dragoons tried to hit them with their sabers a bit. Kind of an interesting idea. You know, well, the good thing about doing that against Caçador is it's a low HP skirm, you know. It's a low HP skirm, so sometimes when you can fight them in melee, sometimes you can take them out a lot easier than trying to go into ranged combat with them. That's not always the case. Oh no, a Culverin just got sniped too by these riders, yeah. Riders were definitely the correct call. You know, you're going to be able to zip in and out with these things and just hit cannons with relative ease. And your enemies are basically going to have a really hard time, like, taking them out because they're sort of, like, trying to target this entire, like, swarm of them. Which in some ways is much harder than fighting, say, a stronger stat Dragoon, because at least with the Dragoons, you target them one by one and you take them out pretty quickly, right? But when you have a big swarm of riders, some units are shooting at one of them, some are shooting at the other one. It can get a bit tricky, so you definitely have to look out for that. Riders having a pretty easy time with the Dragoons here because of their wider numbers. Spain still has a fort here, which I'm surprised by. I wonder why Kaiski hasn't actually made an attempt to try to siege on this fort yet, since he does have the monitor in the water to start shelling the thing. That probably should be something you should do when you get a few moments, you know, to yourself at this point in the match. Just take out that fort. Because I think that fort is probably the only way that Spain could do any sort of counteroffensive at this point. You want to definitely wipe out that option for him. Yeah, it looks like Kelly is just going all out Falconet at this point. Yeah. Also doing Hussar as well. Yeah, you're probably going to want to add something else in there. I can't say Hussar is going to be good against the riders, but maybe you could pressure the organ guns a bit. Yeah, possibly. Oh, Kaiski's also going to try to protect the monitor with these little wall pieces. That's pretty nifty little trick there. Let's see if the cannons can catch the monitor off guard. Oh no, he almost got into the monitor safely, but he got sniped. That's so sad. Yeah, unfortunate, you know. That's the one thing you notice in DE is you see the little like bar and you actually have to wait a number of seconds to board the ship, whereas in Legacy AoE 3, which I do most of the time, you don't have to wait that much. They just jump right in the ship instantly. Right, so if this was Legacy, you wouldn't have to deal with that problem, but DE, it's something we have to deal with. And it's probably more accurate, right? Like, you don't just, like... It's not like you're a Spectre flying into a ship, basically. You obviously have to jump up on top of it and stuff, so yeah, it's probably more historically accurate that way. Just saying. Yeah. Anyways, Dutch and Portuguese teams stepping back for a second. Dutch is going to take the time to hit Industrial Age, which it looks like Kelly is also in. Which means Kelly at this point... Well, Kelly, why haven't you gotten the field guns upgrade yet? Who is this? Is this... Yeah, Kelly. Well, Kelly is actually lacking a bit of wood right now, because I was thinking... If they're in Industrial Age now... Well, these are actually Praetos cannons, but if Kelly wanted to keep doing artillery, which they have some over here, as well as these ones, get that field guns upgrade, you know, it's pretty cheap, like 250 food, 250 wood. I would grab it, you know, it's a pretty good upgrade. Especially when you know that... like this. You need all the HP you can get against stuff like that, because if, for whatever reason, if you have your Falcons on the front line, you got Culverin just trying to sweep through and shave them off like that. Having that little bit of extra HP does grant them a bit more survivability and chances of getting out of there. Without that upgrade, it just doesn't work as good. It just doesn't work. And what's Portugal? Is Portugal going to get guard Caçadores at this point? No Culverin Royale yet, which is kind of interesting. A Revolt on the organ guns. Go, move up. Yeah. Yeah, now's certainly a good time to strike, I think, you know. These guys really haven't upgraded their units at all, so I feel like take advantage of... Oh, these are Carbonire Riders, so these are the Royal Guard upgrade ones. Even stronger, 25 range attack apiece. And look at the size of the swarm of them. This is a very big swarm of these guys. And look at the shipment size. 17 more on the way from the home city. This is perfect. This is going to be something that this type of army comp is really going to struggle against. I would say Dutch on their own are going to kill it, you know? But especially having these organ guns in the back backing you up and Culverins. This is the Spanish worst nightmare right now. This big massive Lancers, yeah, that's not going to do anything against Riders, you know. Yeah, you're going to be able to take out the Caçadores, which aren't even upgraded, so it's a bit of a low-hanging fruit there at that point. But once the Riders come in, these Lancers are nothing. They're gonna get melted by it. Then you still got artillery from Portuguese active, and this is just enough to start sieging away over here. You know, as long as Portugal is providing some artillery on the back side, that should do it. Absolutely, yep. Exactly, that'll do it. You got the artillery, you got the protection for the artillery, you are all set, sir. 100%. Nothing these people can do now. I mean, there's really not much of a way out of it at this point. Even the organ guns are harassing the Dragoons because of the rapid fire, yeah, nobody thinks of that, you know. They think, oh, they're organ guns. They're always going to be bad against cavi. No. With that rapid fire attack, anything like a machine gun actually acts as a somewhat counter to mounted units too. Even with the Malice, that rapid fire attack does hit into their armor a lot more fiercely than, say, something like a Falconet would. Because it's constantly shooting, right? It's shooting many, like, look at this, 6 bullets. So you know what that means? Statistically, if you divide that by half, like that would be like, what, 18? So it's 18 times 6 damage to the cavalry. And that's quite a bit of damage, actually, considering these Dragoons aren't even guard upgraded, you know. Veteran Royal Musketeer shipment from the Spanish. Kind of an interesting play. I don't always see that. How did they even get those, by the way? Did they, yeah, they got that. Oh, interesting. I've never quite seen anyone go for that before. But looks like a powerful shipment, though, especially considering it upgrades a bit, too. Yeah, these veteran Royal Musketeers are a pretty interesting unit, to say the least. Now, do they... Yep, they get the... Did they get the charged ability, the charge attack, or whatever? I don't know. But, looks like they got destroyed, though. Yeah. Oh, Riders trying to snipe these heavy cannons. Yeah, this is the one thing you gotta be careful of with Spain, is the heavy cannons. Because you know what Spain ends up doing is, they make the missionaries use the unction ability, and then they beef up the damage of these heavy cannons to make them absolute monsters to deal with. That's exactly what happens, and it's really not fun to deal with. More Culverins. Yeah, you're gonna need Culverins to fight these remaining Falcons and heavy cans, I think. Once you do that, you're golden. You could actually go for these stables first. Attack from this angle. This might be a way to do it. Yeah, Riders just not getting the job. Well, you need to swarm them up a bit. Like, if you're attacking little groups like that with the Riders, that's when they sort of get beaten up. Yeah, see, this is what you need to throw into there. This big ball of them. You do that, you're all set, right? Portuguese starting to get Covert Royale. Say goodbye to the artillery then. Kelly trying to protect with Elmettos. These powerful Italian Lancer units. But, oh yeah, it's a little bit, looks like they... Yeah, they're dead at this point. Dead out of the water. Dead out of the water, it looks like, absolutely. So, let's look at the post-game, you know. This was a pretty interesting little fight they had here. So, resource-wise, Prado was doing pretty good in eco, you know, comparable to the Dutch, whereas Kelly, you know, I feel like they didn't really have much of an opportunity to boom as much because they were just spending so much resources into expensive artillery, it might have held them back a little bit. And surprisingly, for all the cannons that Kelly was making, they had the least amount of coin of all the players. Like, imagine if they had like double the coin. Like, what would that meant? Would that meant they would have like steamrolled or something? Yeah, hey, you never know. But in terms of combat, I'm pretty shocked the riders, you know, didn't do a lot more damage with those types of swarms. But in general, I feel like the riders are probably more focused on sniping the cannons and doing a lot of the combat, which is why we see Kaishki with more of the kill ratio here, due to organ guns, Cazadors, more of the harder hitting units. As for Spain and for the two Spains, they did get some good casualties in there for sure, you know. Prado made so many Dragoons, that's crazy, you know. But when you compare that to like 128 of these things with the RG upgrade and the cavalry combat, that's gonna probably do a much better job at fighting cans and stuff. Definitely. Hopefully you enjoyed this game. You know, we did see some water gameplay, which you don't always see, right? The big monitor in the center of the lake. Hopefully we get some crazy situations like this in the future, you know. If you see any sort of games on this map or anyone's like that where they use weird tactics with boats and stuff, definitely send them my way, right? We're definitely looking for new, unique, special strategies in AoE3 all the time and exposing them, right? So maybe you can do them yourself. Maybe I'll use them. Who knows? But anyways, see you on the next episode of these Age of Empires 3 cast of games. Definitely enjoyed doing them for you. I'm going to be signing off now from this one. See you in the next ones I will be doing next.